You know, when I was young, I used to like to draw trees, and this is how I draw them. I would draw every branch, every twig, even the leaves in the tree, the little veins. I don't have time to draw all the leaves here. But you can imagine I had a couple dozen leaves there. When I saw how the other kids at school later on drew trees, I changed. Do you remember how the kids used to draw trees? You remember? 2 lines with a little poofy cloud on top like this? When I saw how the other children drew trees, I stopped drawing trees the way I used to, and I started drawing them the way the other children did. When my mom saw this, she cried. She really cried. Now, fast forward a few years. I'm 8 years old. I'm at a Little League game. Just so you know, there's a couple ways to play Little League. You can either be good and actually hit the ball, you know where you hit the ball, or if you're pathetic like I was, you just bunt the ball. You just hold the bat out and the ball hits it and it drops. I had one bunt the entire season as an 8-year-old boy. I was pathetic. But we're not going to tell about how pathetic I was as a little boy. There was something important that happened that day. After we got home from the Little League game, my mom complained of having a very severe headache. In fact, she said it was worse than childbirth. Now, I haven't experienced childbirth. Some of you have. I hear it's pretty bad. My dad became concerned and he decided to take Mom to the hospital because it was so bad. And I remember standing there in the front room of our home, giving my mom a hug and saying, "I love you, Mom." And then they drove away. This wasn't normal for my mom to have headaches. And I asked the people, we had some relatives staying there with us that day, and I asked them, I said, "Is my mom going to die?" "No, she's not going to die. She probably just has a migraine." "Do you promise my mom's not going to die?" "I promise your mom's not going to die. She probably just has a migraine. She'll be fine." And I wanted to believe them. I went down to my bed and I read a book. I still remember the name of the book. It was a book about squirrels. As an 8-year-old boy, I sat there on my bed waiting for my parents to come home. They didn't come home. And the next morning, I got up and I came to the door. Next to my room is a long family room. And I opened the door and I could see my dad on the other side of the family room. But today, something was different. My mom wasn't there. Instead, there was a neighbor and another neighbor and a friend. It seemed like half the neighborhood was there surrounding my dad. And as I approached him, I could see my dad had been crying. And he gathered us children together, all 7 of us. And he said words that I'll never forget. He said, "I think our mom is going to leave us." And I knew what those words meant. And I went into a panic and I said, Dad, please, we got to do something. Let's say a prayer, let's do something. We got to do something to save Mom. My mom had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. Blood vessel in her brain had burst. She was now brain dead at the hospital. She was being kept alive only by a machine, life support system. 2 days later, we were at the hospital. I could see the tubes coming out of my mom's nose and mouth. And I could see her breathing really unnaturally with the help of a machine. It was like, it just didn't look like my mom. And it came time for them to unplug my mom from the machine. And I remember that my mom kind of crinkled up. She turned blue as the life left her body. And I remember being afraid to give my mom a kiss because she didn't look like my mom. My mom died that day. And as an 8-year-old boy, I watched my mom die. I hear that later, after we'd left the room, she went from being crinkled up to where she spread her arms like angels' wings. It looked like she was coming into a beautiful place. Now, I have a question for you. How do you think I draw trees now?